Welcome to the world of probiotic foods. This is Cultured Food Life with your host, Donna Schwenk.
Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining me. On our last podcast, I want to make a note. I guess the audio stopped at like 2:18, 2 minutes and 18 seconds in. So we re-rendered it. It didn't get rendered right or something happened. I don't know. He re-rendered it, and so now it's back on there again. If you'd like to know about the benefits of cultured foods, and that was on the previous podcast, which was number 246, or what are the benefits of cultured foods? And I go into why each one of the cultured foods is good for you, the bacteria in them, the good probiotics in them. And it was a pretty good podcast. So if you wanted, sorry about that, guys. And so we've got that fixed. So if you'd like to listen to that, that's a good one too. But this week, we're going to be talking about what to do with your cultures while you're on vacation. And we're going into all the cultures: kefir, kombucha, sourdough, yogurts, kefir soda, and water kefir. We're going to do all of them. I'll tell you how to care for them if you want to go, because everybody goes on vacation. And cultured foods are like pets that you got to take care of. So there's easy ways to do that, because the good microbes in the cultures eat the sugar out of the culture. And then you want to be sure that they have plenty of food to eat, because without those sugars in the cultures, whether it's vegetables or juices or milk or non-dairy milk or prebiotics, whatever is in that culture that the microbes use as food to make you lots of probiotics, if they don't have that, they can die. So here are how to care for them, what to do if you're going to go on vacation for a limited amount of time or for a longer amount of time. So let's get started. We're going to talk about milk kefir grains. Storing your milk kefir grains for like a week, say you're going to be gone for a week, that's pretty easy. And what you do is you place your milk kefir grains in milk, whatever medium you were using before. Place it in whatever you would do to make it once a day. So if you have a tablespoon of grains, put it in at least 2 to 3 cups of milk. 3 is better. And make sure that it has plenty of food. And it will last a week in the fridge that way. It takes 24 hours to do it on the counter because it's warm. But when it's in the fridge, it takes a lot longer. So I like to double the milk. If you have more grains, make sure you add a lot more milk. Add at least what you would normally do in 24 hours. So let's say you normally make a quart of kefir every day. Well, you would do the same thing if you're going to put it in the fridge for a week. Store it in that milk, same amount of milk, and stick it in the fridge. It'll last a week in the fridge. Now, when you take it out of the fridge, when you get home, you want to strain off that milk and that the grains are resting in, and you can discard it or you can drink it or give it to pets. It's not really as strong as regular kefir. It will be a little bit, but it won't have all the benefits because it kind of goes dormant in the refrigerator. So, and that's another thing. Kefir grains do not like to be in the fridge a lot. It's not their favorite thing. And if you do it too much, the kefir grains can actually eat themselves. And I've had that happen. So it's okay occasionally. It's okay if you're going on vacation, but it's not something you should do on a regular basis. It just doesn't like it. The grains don't like it. And they won't act the same way for you if you do it on a regular basis. So keep them on the counter making kefir. And if they're a little bit slow in making kefir when you come home and you take them out and you strain them, because the cold slows them down a little bit. After a couple batches, they'll get back up to speed again. Now, if you're going to be gone longer than a week, I recommend you can freeze your grains in powdered milk. Place powdered milk and place a lot of powdered milk on the bottom of the dish. Put the grains or whatever you're going to store them in, and then pour a whole bunch on top of the grains too. So you have it on the bottom, the sides, the top, a lot, because it's food. It also kind of gives them a little bit of coating that keeps them, more preserved in the fridge and freezer. Then place them in the freezer. Make sure you put a really secure lid on them. And I like to use a rectangular food grade storage container, because then I can get more powdered milk on them. You can also use glass if you want, but then glass can expand and sometimes it can break if you've got too much in there. So plastic's better. Silicone works too. Now, the grains do diminish a little bit when you freeze them, and the longer they're frozen, the more they'll diminish. I've had them diminish quite a bit, but I freeze a lot of grains. But once you get them out and working again, then they get back up to speed and they start growing and multiplying. So when you freeze them, you're going to have less grains than when you started with, but that's okay because they will bounce back. So as long as you feed them, it's good to give them like a prebiotic too, like Prebio Plus or something, to give them a little bit of extra food and just get them, back to growing and multiplying. So you can store them for several months or for up to a year, but the longer you do that, the longer you freeze them, the more the grains will diminish because they go dormant. And if you freeze them a lot, they can die because they don't like doing it over and over. Like if you're going to freeze them, just do it once a year, twice at the most. And they will come back and grow. But if you keep doing it, the more you freeze them, the more they diminish. So after they start to wake up, after you take them out of the freezer, let them thaw. And once they thaw, strain out that milk that was on there, or you can actually, since there's just powdered milk on there, you can also store them in milk in the freezer, but I think powdered milk works better. But once they wake up, you don't have to strain them. You don't have to do anything if they don't have milk on them. Just put them in fresh milk and let them start culturing. And do your normal routine, however long you normally do, 24 hours or whatever, and keep doing it for a couple times and they should be fine. Usually takes about 2 or 3 feedings for them to get back to really growing and being active again. So, and then like I said, give them a little prebio to wake them up, and it can make a big difference on how they perform because they're just going to be hungry. So you can freeze them, just don't do it very often. If you're going to be gone for longer than a week, I recommend you do that. Or you can double the amount of milk and just keep them in the refrigerator if it's just 2 weeks. You could do that too. But they don't like it. They don't like being in the fridge or the freezer, but they'll get over it because I've done it many times. So, kombucha starter. Now, storing your kombucha and scoby for a week or a month, that's no problem. It's one of the easiest ferments to store while you're on vacation. You make a fresh batch of kombucha with your scoby and keep it in the jar on the counter. You can do that for up to a month. You can double the sugar in the recipe in the tea if you are going to be gone for several weeks, but it should be fine even if you're gone for 3 weeks to 4 weeks, because it just kind of turns to vinegar. And always, you can take out your extra scobies and store them in a jar with a lid and some starter tea that covers it. If you want to save some of your scobies that you get extras of because you get a new one each week. But for your regular kombucha, you can just make it as you normally make it, maybe add a little bit of tea and sugar to it, and then it can last a month on the counter easily. So kombucha is easy. Don't put it in the fridge, guys. The yeast die in the fridge. So then your kombucha won't be bubbly anymore. The cold kills yeast, and yeast, or the good yeast in kombucha, is what makes it bubbly. So don't store your kombucha starter ever in the fridge because it harms the SCOBY. So that's something, some people do that, and you shouldn't do it because it won't kill it right away, but it just doesn't like it. And your kombucha won't be as bubbly. Okay, now sourdough culture. Now, storing your sourdough culture for a week or two is pretty easy. If you are storing it in the refrigerator, you should feed it right before you leave, and make sure you're feeding it the right ratios of, if it's sourdough, regular sourdough, it's 1 to 1 to 1. And you should use equal portions of starter, equal portions of flour, equal portions of water. And the reason I recommend this, it's really important because if you have too much starter in that jar, and let's say you have a cup of starter in the jar, and then you give it a half cup of flour and half a cup of water, that starter is going to eat all that food in a couple of days because it's not enough flour and water. You need to have a half a cup of starter, half a cup of flour, half a cup of water. That way the starter is not consuming all the nutrients super fast and running out of food. So if you have too much starter, you can just take out some and you can use it. You can save that starter, and we have a lot of recipes on what to do with your extra starter. And you can just discard it. It's up to you. But this will last for a week in your fridge if you do this. Now, if you're going to be longer than a week, you need to double it. Double everything. Double the flour, the water. You can double the starter too, or leave the starter the way it is. Well, leave the starter the way it is with equal 1 to 1 ratios. So half a cup flour, half a cup water, and half a cup of sourdough starter. But if you're going to be going longer than like a week, then you want a half a cup of starter, and then you want 1 cup of flour and 1 cup of water. That way it will have double the food, and it will last for 2 weeks instead of 1. And you can keep doing that however long you're going to be on. If you're going to be on a month, then quadruple it. So it'll just last a long time. It'll have plenty of food while it's in the fridge. And it does not mind being in the fridge like the other cultures do. It does really good. Now, if you're going to be gone a really long time, you can dehydrate your starter for long-term storage. I do this all the time, and I have a recipe for that. It's basically you're taking your sourdough starter and you're spreading it on parchment paper with a spoon, really thin, and then you're letting it dry on the counter for like 3 or 4 days, and it will dry your starter. And then you break it up, and it'll be like hard little bits, and you just put it in a baggie, and that can last a long time. So that's a great way to stave your starter, or even just to have it just in case you do something to your starter and kill it. Now, einkorn flour is different. The ratios are different. So what you're going to do with einkorn is you're going to use about 2 teaspoons of the starter, maybe 2 or 3 spoonful. And then you're going to have 1/4 a cup of water and a 1/2 a cup of einkorn flour. That's for 1 week. And then stir that all up, place in the fridge, and that should last you a week. You don't use as much starter. Einkorn's much more active and just seems to consume the food twice as fast. Plus, it's different proteins in einkorn, so the water gets absorbed much more slowly, and so you don't need as much water in einkorn. It's more moist too. So, and again, if it looks a little dry, you can add a little bit more water. It's not going to hurt anything. But that's the general rule of thumb with einkorn. You can always double the flour and water if you're going to be gone longer, and you can also dehydrate it too. You can do the same thing with that for long-term storage, just so you'll always have some on hand if you'd like. It's pretty easy. And I also sell dehydrated ones, so that's kind of nice to have around too. If you, it's really pretty hard to kill a sourdough starter, but it's always best to keep it fed and happy, because then it will rise your bread very easily. If you neglect it, it's going to take a while for it to get back to the way that it was. And it may not rise your bread as high in the beginning, so you need to feed it a lot. So it's always good to feed it at least once a week, all your sourdough starters. But that's how you care for them. And I have a list of all of this. I have an article, so you can go check it out so you don't have to write all this down. Now, cultured vegetables, they're super easy. They always are stored in the fridge. And they can last up to 9 months in your fridge. And they will age kind of like a fine wine. And it's one of the easiest cultured foods to store because they're always in there. After they've been fermented, you just place them in the fridge, and they stay perfectly preserved in your fridge. Those acidifying bacteria preserve the food and keep out pathogens, and they really last a very, very long time in the fridge. And that's one of my favorite things about cultured vegetables. 9 months easily. I've done it even longer than that, and they were fine. Okay, so yogurts. We've got a lot of new yogurts, and all of them will stay for weeks stored in your fridge. And we've got El Ruderai, El Gasarai, Yogurt Plus, Bulgarian, Greek yogurt. And each one of these should last up to 3 weeks to a month stored in your refrigerator. I do this all the time in my refrigerator. And you should still be able to reculture with them even at about 3 weeks. That's normally what I do. I have done it at a month, and it worked too, but I think it's better the sooner you use them to reculture them. But if you're going to be gone for several weeks, the yogurt will be fine. Now, the CFUs, or the colony forming units in the yogurt, which is the good bacteria, can be less as they sit in the fridge. They diminish a little bit, but they should go back up once you add fresh milk and culture with them again, make a new batch. So now freezing, a lot of people want to freeze their yogurts and then thaw it to reculture with it. Now, the live and active bacteria found in yogurt survive freezing by going dormant, but it does diminish the probiotic count a little bit. So I really don't recommend freezing it for over 2 months, because this greatly reduces its ability to reculture. And then the other thing I don't like about freezing yogurt is that it changes the texture of the yogurt, and it kind of makes it grainy and thinner after freezing. It kind of separates a lot. It's just not the same. So you can do it, but I don't recommend it, and I don't do it. So, okay, Kefir soda. Now, if you are going on vacation and you've been making our new Kefir soda starter, that is fabulous. You need to drink it all before you go, because it is very active. And if you're not there to pop the top on the bottle every day, or you're gone for, a week, it doesn't always, but it can explode in your fridge if it's super active. If it's kind of gone dormant a little bit, it's not as bubbly, then you're probably okay. But just to be safe, I would drink it all before you go. That way you're not coming home to a mess, because it is very active. It just depends on what stage your kefir soda. If it's a new bottle and you just made it and it's super bubbly and it's popping when the thing goes pop when you open it, you need to drink it all. And it could be, I have heard people say that the lids popped off. It didn't shatter the bottle, but the lids popped off. But I have heard people that they used the wrong kind of bottles too. They didn't use strong bottles made for brewing, and then it bursts in the fridge. So always make sure you do that. But here's my suggestion: just drink it before you go, because better be safe than sorry. So that's what I always do. Okay, now water kefir crystals, you can store them for 1 to 2 weeks. You prepare a sugar water solution, 1/4 cup of water kefir grains, or if you have more than that, then double this. And then you need 1/4 cup of sugar and 1 quart of water to make your water sugar solution, just as if you were making a new batch of water kefir. Now, if you have more grains, adjust it by adding more sugar and increasing the water. So for instance, if you have 1/2 cup of grains, then add 1/2 cup of sugar and increase the water to 8 cups. And then place the grains in sugar water, put a tight lid on them, and place them in the refrigerator. And this will keep for 2 weeks in the fridge. If you're going to be gone longer than that, then longer than 2 weeks, then double the sugar. You don't really need to double the water. You just need to double the sugar, because it just kind of will have more food is what you're needing. Now your grains will be a little sluggish when you come back, but that's okay if you give them a little bit of molasses, like a teaspoon, to a jar of if you have like 1/4 cup of water kefir grains, a teaspoon of molasses along with the sugar water will help wake them up, and then they'll be happy. So those are all the cultures that I can think of that you need to store while you're on vacation. And if you are on vacation, one great thing that I do is I take easy kefir packages to make milk kefir on the road, because all you need is milk and a jar and a package. You do need to keep the package in the fridge, because all our cultures need to be stored in the fridge. So they'll last a long time. I do this all the time. I've done it on a cruise. I've done it in hotels. I take a jar, I get milk, put the package of kefir in it, and let it sit for 24 hours in a good kefir. So I'm not messing with grains. That's a really easy thing to travel with. And it's fun and keeps everything in balance. So those are my suggestions. And if you go on vacation, I hope you have a great one. We all need more vacations. That's my personal opinion. But take your cultures, or have cultured foods while you're gone. Either way, just once or twice, it makes a big difference, guys. And if you're going to places where you don't know what's in the water and things like that, cultured foods can really help you with that and keep you healthy and happy and keep those pathogens from getting a foothold in your life. So anyway, I hope this helps, and thanks for listening, guys, and we'll see you next time.